At Atlanta Ballet for nearly 12 years now. When they asked me to do this event initially, I was a little intimidated. For the past few of these, they've had actual radio hosts and like professional interviewers do this, like Rose Scott, who I love. And so I was a little intimidated, but then I looked at the theme for tonight's discussion, which is the women behind the scenes, and I read the list of panelist names, and all topped off by the fact that it's Women's History Month. It just felt right. I feel lucky and privileged to be a part of any platform that gives women a chance to be real and talk about their hard work and just the exciting things that you do every day. So without further ado, I will formally introduce all of you. First, we have Colleen McGonegle, who's our costume director. Hey, Colleen. We have Cicely Palms, our company manager. Cicely. Abby Parker, our shoe manager. And Nicole Walters, who's our stage manager. So first off, hello and welcome, ladies. I would like to just have you all go around. You'll have these very important, interesting sounding titles, managers and directors. So I'll go around and have you just give a general overview of what your job entails. So Colleen, will have you go first.
Okay. So as costume director, I sort of oversee all of the costumes for the productions. And I would say mostly what my job entails is making sure that everybody has everything they need to do their job well. There are 4 other people in the shop. We have a pattern maker, Abby Dupree-Polston. We have Susan Carter, who does all of our tutus. And we also have Abby Parker, who is also the shoe manager, but she also graces us with her presence in the shop. And then Chloe Gervais, who just came in most recently as a stitcher. So between all of them, we get the show put up and on stage, and that's what we do.
Amazing. Yeah, the costume shop is one of the coolest places, as you can see in the background, all of the neat stuff in there. Next, Cicely, go ahead and tell us about what you do.
Company and all of the logistics related to company dancers, and basically serve to connect all of the departments, artistic and production and marketing and development, with dancers when needed, scheduling, logistics like making sure contracts happen and Agma rules are followed, and making sure that basically leading up to the show, everything is taken care of so that when it's time for show time, Nicole is not having to deal with anything and can focus on show things. So all of the pre-show logistics, and then, yeah, hopefully that's a good summary. Logistics.
It's connecting everyone and making sure it goes. Awesome. Next, let's have Abby Parker.
Hello. I am the company shoe manager, and I manage the shoes. So I make sure that all of the dancers have plenty of shoes in stock for whatever they need. If there's a show specific need, I help take care of that. And when the dancers need shoes, I give them to them and work with the dancers to try to customize their shoes and get them to be the best they can be for them. And I also, as Colleen said, work in the costume shop as a technician.
Lovely, lovely. And last but not least, Nicole, tell us what a stage manager does.
So I facilitate, a big part of my responsibility is facilitating communication across all creative and technical departments. And I oversee set, props, lighting, and sounds. And during the performance, I call all technical aspect of the show.
Yes, there's a lot that goes into that. Really cool. Okay, so now I have, in a similar fashion, we'll just go around and just ask your journey, where you come from originally, where you trained, and maybe other jobs or things leading up to working at Atlanta Ballet. So we'll go in the same order. Colleen, you go first.
So I originate from Iowa, in the Midwest, and I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Illinois, with an emphasis in costume design and technology, and then worked in theater for many years, and then went on and got my master's degree from the Royal College of Art in London in history of design, and then came here to work at the Atlanta Ballet. So that's a quick synopsis.
Love it. Thank you. Cicely, how about you?
You're awesome. I started dancing when I was 2. That's the beginning of the story. And then fast forward a lot of time. I went to school. My bachelor's degree is in dance and my master's is in arts administration. I went on from school to start working with Dance Canvas, another organization in Atlanta. And I was their admin assistant. And then I got connected kind of through my professor, Dave Tattoo, to Atlanta Ballet. There was a position open for company manager, and I reached out to him and asked him what he thought and if that'd be a good option. I started interviewing, and luckily I got the job. It was right place, right time, and here I am.
And you were our assistant stage manager too, right? For a couple of shows.
Yes. So when I first started at the ballet, I was company manager / assistant stage manager, kind of those 2 hats at the same time. And then as the company management position evolved a little more, I shed the assistant stage manager duties and started working more with more of the logistics and the artistic team.
She didn't want to be on stage left anymore. She wanted to be.
You love stage left, and I still go hang out there a lot.
It's true. It's true. So Abby, how about you?
I was born in New York, but raised in North Carolina. I got my degree in theater performance and with a costume slant at Greensboro College in North Carolina. And then I moved out to California, and I spent the next lots of years as a professional actor and director and a costumer on the side. And then in 2013, I became a freelance costume designer alone, and worked in video production and theater. And I came here in 2016 briefly, and then I came back in 2018 when they merged the shoe manager position in with the costume shop team. And here I am.
That was a wonderful day when that happened. Things will never be the same for our shoes. And Nicole, how about you?
So my career started on the stage. I was actually going to Florida School of the Arts for performance. And my last year there, I was more interested and focused on what was happening behind the scenes than actually on the stage while I was acting. So after I graduated, I decided I don't want to do acting. So then I went to University of Miami for stage management, because I was so in awe of, like, I loved set design and I loved costumes and I loved lighting. And it's like, I wanted something that encompassed all of that. And stage management, you kind of have your hand in the pot a little bit with everything, because you get to work with everyone, or like all the departments. So I got my degree in stage management, left there, went to New York, worked for Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater for 2 years as intern, not getting paid at all, paying my dues, but loving every moment of it. And then they hired me finally, because I told them I'm not leaving until they give me a job. So they hired me as the assistant stage manager. And then, I was there for 9 years in that position. And then I decided that I wanted a more challenge, because I realized I was getting so complacent doing the same thing every year. You know, it's like the different, but the same. So I was like, let me just push myself. And now I'm here, and I've been here. I arrived here last year in January, and then 3 months in, the pandemic hit, and yeah.
Yeah, we did like one show, right?
Yeah.
Or one run.
Show, yeah.
It's crazy. Well, yay, we're so glad that you're here, and thank you, everyone. So now I'll go into more specific questions geared towards each of your individual roles, but definitely pipe up if something like a memory pops into your head, or you have an interesting perspective on like something that gets brought up. So Cicely, I will start with you. So, well, first of all, I have to mention that Cicely is technically on maternity leave right now. So she has gladly agreed to do this talk, even though she has a sweet little baby girl at home. And congratulations again. So my first question for you is, what do you think are some important qualities that someone should have in order to be successful at what you do?
Be a nerd for organizing things. The main thing that I would say. So, I mean, the part of my position that I like is that I still feel connected to, kind of like Nicole was saying, to the creative aspect of things, and I can still be involved in dance in a way that I love. But the part that you need is the logistics side to be successful. So I would say just being a nerd for organizing things and time management, and also like people skills a little bit. I feel like it's a lot of relationships with the dancers, like with you, and artistic team, production team, being a host to the guest artist, stuff like that. Hopefully
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I always find that an interesting one to put out there. So I think something you've touched on maybe a little bit, but is that you have to really organize the contracts with visiting repertoires who are setting the work and all different collaborators. So how far in advance do you have to start thinking about those things and like your ideal situation, I guess?
So a lot of stuff. I mean, I work very closely with Thomas, our general manager. He does a lot of the contracts initially. A lot of my job is making sure that all of that gets executed after the fact. So I'd say, I mean, the pandemic has changed a lot of things, right, with what we're able to do and how early we're able to do it. But typically I'm trying to plan everything at least a season or half a season in advance to make sure that everything's set up and rocking and rolling. So a contract gets finished with one of our choreographers or set designers, and then I reach out to them and start planning all of their flights and hotels and travel and stuff like that. Hopefully a season or at least half a season is like my deadline usually in advance to get everything done and booked. But pandemic has changed that a little bit. And then also if they are an artist, international artist with a visa, we start planning even more in advance, because that takes a long time to get through the system.
Yeah, that's something really interesting. We have, how many international dancers are there in the company now, I think?
That is a scary question because I don't do it off the top of my head.
It's like that time of year too, I'm sure you're right. But we have quite a few. I mean, I think people don't realize.
I think I could be wrong. I should have had that written down to tell you.
Yeah, but for the size of company, I think it's really interesting for people to know.
Very international.
Yeah.
And then a lot of our artists, like the guest artists coming in, to choreographers and set designers and costume designers and things, are also international. So, and that is part of like a part of our company that I really love, also how diverse we are.
And you're sort of one of the main people that really facilitates that, as far as the logistics of them being here, visas and that kind of thing too, right?
Yeah. So visas are a huge part of my job. We have what's called an O1 visa or a P1 visa. The O1 is usually for more like seasoned dancers or our guest artists. And then the P1s are for newer folks that are coming in, and we have to do those long in advance. It sometimes takes 6 months to a year at this point to get those approved. And we basically have to prove that those dancers are, we need that person, and we have to have them to be successful on stage and to complete our mission as Atlanta Ballet. And my job is to send in a stack of paper about like this big physically to USCIS and convince them that we need that dancer. So that is a huge part of my job, doing that paperwork and filling out all of those forms and writing a lot about them. So, and that's what I like, because I get to tell the dancer's story. That's when I get to nerd out about the dancer, because I get to do the research on them or the research on the artist, and basically just write about how fabulous they are and send in tons of pictures, and
Professional bragger.
Yeah, professional bragger.
I love it. And I know that that's something that is, I mean, super vital for these artists. They wouldn't get the opportunity to be here if it weren't for you. So I know they're all very grateful for your work. So now I have a few questions for Colleen. So I guess my first question for you, just to start out, is what is sort of a typical day in the office for Colleen? How does that go?
A typical day in the office. Well, I spend very little time in it. It seems to be the typical day. It depends really where we are in the process. In like February or March, sort of when we're hitting the ground running, a day we'll have a lot of fittings. If we're getting close to crunch time, we can have pretty much back-to-back fittings all day. Other times, and that happens a lot, like when a designer comes in specifically for the show. So we have a set amount of time with the designer. So we're trying to show them as much as we can, if possible. So between the fittings and then often with my job, I'm focused on what's going on right now, but I'm also focused on the next upcoming programs. So communicating with those designers and making sure everything's in place so that once we get the first show open, we're ready to move on to the next show, because it's quite a quick timeline for the size of the shop we have, because we only have about 3 weeks turnaround in between the closing of one show and going into tech for the next one. And then probably the one thing that's a little outside of normal management is then I also do the all of the dyeing and the painting for the shows if there's anything needed, which sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. So if I'm not in the costume shop or in stock, then I'm back in the dye room making all sorts of strange potions. So that's my general day.
It's right next to the dancers lounge, so we always sometimes see Colleen with her.
Yeah.
I'm always creeping in there to see what she's working on.
In my mad scientist look with the gloves and the apron.
Yeah, with your boiling pots. Yes. So what is your favorite kind of costume to create, I guess, unless you have also the design experience too in that question?
I think for us in the shop, anything that's a little unique or a little bit different. We all love to learn, and so it's a lot of fun when a designer comes in with something that is new or different that we haven't done before. And so, I mean, sometimes we get a little stressed because we have short deadlines, but if we have the time, it's a lot of fun to kind of learn new techniques or do something different. Back with Craig Davidson's piece, the designer Kate Venables came in and she wanted to do these contact prints with real flowers. And so that was something that we got to play around with and like learn how to do, and turned out successfully. So those are our favorite projects, when we get to take away something new.
Yeah, I remember those skirts. Were they made of silk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they are beautiful. But all the natural botanical dyes and stuff, that was really cool. So the costume shop is famously one of the happiest places in the building, I think. They always have snacks and good music playing, and they also spend countless long hours in the shop handcrafting and sewing garments and accessories. And I think because of that, your team has such a good camaraderie. And my question, I guess, is, as the manager of that department, do you like try to cultivate that dynamic, and especially with, stressful deadlines and things like that, like, or is it just something that happens?
Well, I think everybody has such a great personality, but yeah, I mean, I think I try to be aware when stress is running high. We do have a saying, you can sort of tell where the stress level is at about how full the treat table is. If it's fairly full, we're a little stressed. But yeah, we try to keep things fun. And I mean, this is the sort of field you go into it because you love it, not because we're here for any other reason. So if we're not having a good time, then why be here? So we really try to keep it as fun as we can.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's very similar for the dancers as well.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll go on to Abby now. Let's get some basic questions. I see you have these lovely racks of shoes behind you. I think people are always interested in just the sheer volume of shoes that we use. So I don't know if you have these stats right in front of you or anything. Don't want to catch you off guard, but so how often do dancers need shoes? Like how often do they ask for them? And like maybe how many do they typically use in a season, let's say?
Well, the biggest thing that depends on is the type of shoe. And I see that somebody did ask, does each dancer have their own unique shoes, especially the point shoes? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. We work with just about every different point shoe company in the world. And we have special relationships with them. Either I or Leslie, who mans the boutique, have gotten on first name bases with lots of vice presidents. But yes, each dancer's point shoes are customized in the company to their foot, down to the 1/8 of an inch, down to how strong the shank is, which is the bottom of the shoe. So with that being said, there are some shoes that are made to last months, and there are some shoes that are not as durable, but have different qualities. So we have some dancers that may go through 15 pairs in a year, and we have some dancers who will typically go through 60 in a year. And it also depends on the piece. You know, Nutcracker is a great example because the Chinese dance in Nutcracker, they have to use a new pair of shoes every single night because there's so much work on a certain part of the shoe that it just kills the shoe, and they're not able to do it again. So those shoes can be moved on to another piece, you know, and recycled there. But Nutcracker takes a lot of shoes.
Yeah, not only just the wear and tear, but because a lot of them are custom dyed and decorated, right?
Yes. And I think I want to say our stats at the end of the 2019-20 season, which we missed a few shows at the end of 20, but we had at least 6,000 pairs of shoes come through our doors, some of which are still in stock, some of which have passed on to the great heaven of shoes. My trash can.
The basket outside of the costume shop.
Yes. Currently my floor in my shoe cave.
Yes, the shoe cave, infamously named. I actually was going to tell a little story about the shoe cave. So the first time that I met Abby as the shoe director, I think I maybe had met you before, but the first time like you were definitely the shoe director. I remember walking in to the shoe cave, and I wanted to introduce myself because like having a good relationship with the shoe person is like really important. And I just remember, you know, we kind of like chatted and introduced ourselves, and then I just felt like I needed to tell you everything about what was going on with my shoes. Like I was like, so I have this new maker, but I want to switch, but then I had these old ones and they like were misordered, and then I got injured, and then I actually started to cry. Like I don't know if you remember this, but like I got teary-eyed. And I just was like, I can't believe the first time I'm really meeting this person, I'm getting emotional. But so I guess the end of this story is, my question is, do you feel like our therapist?
I'm not gonna lie. Yes.
And like, why do you think it's so like we're so attached to this and just like need them to be right, you know?
Well, your feet are the foundation of your art. You know, I mean, not just your body physically, but also, you know, if your feet can't do what they need to do, I mean, it would be like, it's like trying to sew for me with no hands, you know, or a singer with no voice. And the shoes are like your instrument, you know, whereas a musician might have this amazing violin, you know, that they take very good care of. Those are your shoes for you, is the violin. And I mean, I can completely understand, especially having seen enough dancers' feet now, that what your feet go through is really on par with some of the most athletic people in the entire universe. And so, yeah, I think people, it's not just you, a lot of dancers have a very emotional attachment to their point shoes and to how they fit and how they're working for them. And yeah, so do I feel like your therapist? Yes. I actually I keep a stash of Werther's Originals in here, and I have been known to shut the door and say, have a seat here on my bench, have a Werther's, brush in my little ponytail, and let's talk about what's going on.
Yes, and we just appreciate that you're someone who not only just willing to listen to our conundrum that is the constant battle with the point shoes, but you also really are super active in trying to, get them right. You're not just relying on the makers themselves or sourcing from the different companies, which you definitely do, but you also really do a lot of modification to them, which is something super unique. I've never seen anyone do that before. What's some of the modifications that you've done to point shoes?
A lot of what I have done has been cutting down the sides and the backs of shoes, the sides and the heels. And occasionally cutting the shank. A lot of people are watching right now going, what is she talking about? And this is where it comes in handy that I work in the costume shop, that I'm a sewer.
A sewing background, yeah.
A stitcher, not a sewist. But on the point shoe, the sides here and the back, where they hit on the foot is very important. Also right here, which is called the vamp. You wouldn't think it would make such a big difference, but if the vamp is too long or if it is too narrow or the sides come up too high, you literally can't get your foot up on point. So a lot of what I've been able to do is mostly just for trials to be able to see, if we were to get these cut down on the sides or cut down in the back or with a different kind of vamp, would that help you? Rather than order them, wait 6 weeks to 6 months to get them to find out if they would work or not. It's easier just to do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that skill set is so helpful in that process because otherwise it can take years to find the right shoe. So much appreciated, Abby.
I'm a nerd. It's so fun.
We all are. Okay. So next, Nicole, finally, we're going to come to you. I'm going to ask you some questions. So first of all, so as a dancer, I've always sort of admired the stage manager role, which is funny that you said the same thing, like you're a performer and you sort of had this sort of admiration for the backstage side. During the performances, I've always felt like if I'm nervous for something, I just look over and there you are, working with your headset so organized, you've got your cue list, you've got your monitors, everything is all planned out, and it makes me feel like calm and like everything's gonna go just right. So thank you for being that sort of person backstage. But so talk me through like how you get in the zone before a performance. Like what is a performance day like for a stage manager?
Oh, performance day. Well, it's a lot of, for me, I will watch a video, whether it's a rehearsal video or a tech that I've recorded, and I will literally just go over it until I feel comfortable, but I will not feel good or calm until like maybe 10 minutes into the show, once the curtain is out and I've called the first couple of cues and I'm like, all right, I got this. This is good, but that's only for like the first 2 performances. And then after that, I'm totally goofing off and just being unprofessional on headset. No, I'm not. But I just like to have a good time. So for me, it's just trying to keep it light, trying not to stress out about it, because although you prepare a lot as a stage manager, there's a lot that you can't prepare for. So you also have to be ready for anything and everything. And I've experienced a lot of unpredictable situations, like calling when I was in California and an earthquake happened and we're in the middle of Revelations and, doing a kids show, and the entire power at the theater went out during the middle of a performance, and having to get flashlights and a blowhorn and we still carried on and had a boombox and played music. But it's like those kinds of things, you kind of try to think about what's the worst case scenario. Like if this happens, then what are the steps that I should do or what should I take? But whatever you plan for, it never happens that way. So I've been working on my poker face for years, and I think I have it down to a science.
It's good. It's real good.
Like I'm smiling a lot for this. But
like that unpredictable nature, do you think that is it like a fight or flight thing? Like, have you always been that person in a crisis who just kind of like takes charge and knows what to do? Or is that something you've had to like work on?
No, I think I think it comes with experience. It's like you either are that kind of person that always steps up to situations, or you're the kind of person that takes a step back. And I've always been that person with, what do you need? What do you want me to do kind of thing. So for me, it's easy to direct people and say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we're going to do. Please, thank you. I'm sorry. Now let's do it. So I just think it's a personality thing more than anything. And then just years of experience and being in different situations, it kind of hones, your sixth sense into that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So then sort of outside of the performance aspect of your role at Atlanta Ballet, what are some other types of things? I think especially because people are wondering these days, we're not in the theater as much. What are some things, I guess now that we're in this new sort of age of our lives and of what a dance company is, like, what are some of the things you're having to manage these days?
Well, when we first locked down with COVID, the school was still open and we still did classes. So we moved virtual. So I played a big part in helping Dana, who was amazing. And she's on here, like she was like set up the Zoom, and Dave also, who is our TD, he set up this audio. And I was just physically there in the studio 6 days a week, helping out. Whether it was company class or, the school or adult classes, just logging teachers on, being on my laptop in the studio, making sure the connection was great. If there was a technical issue, I was there to help. And then once we started having dancers come back into the studio, I was at all 3 locations. I taped out little boxes to get socially distanced, taped out X's on the bars to keep everyone socially distanced when they were on the bar. So, I mean, we stopped performing, but the work didn't stop, if that makes any sense. I just shifted my role and responsibilities a bit to fit what the organization needed at the time.
Yeah, again, that's sort of just like doing the thing, stepping up, being agile and adjusting. I think that's sort of like goes hand in hand with being a performer in a way too, because you have that sort of the show must go on kind of mentality. So what are some of the things, so someone's like brand new to being backstage, like what would be your basic, like, here's what you need to know, what are some general rules that you would say, or just things that like a newbie would need to know right away about being backstage?
Newbie as in a guest backstage, or a technical person like a stagehand, or like a tech person, or so a general rule is there is one voice when the performance starts, and that's the stage manager's voice, and the one word no one is allowed to say is go.
That I didn't know.
Don't say going, don't say gonna, no geo, anything.
Or anything that rhymes with it.
No, yeah, because for us, that is the word that we say for anything and everything to happen on stage. So if you're on headset, you are not allowed to say go unless you are the stage manager. For me, it's just about I guess energy and etiquette, just staying out of the way, especially the dancer's way. being mindful of where you stand and what's going on around you, because sometimes we have really prop heavy shows and there's like absolutely no space. And so where you're standing 1 minute, that might be clear, there might be a prop coming off in that spot. So just know where you are, be aware of your surroundings. Keep the noise down, because dancers are very focused, and so am I, especially if it's a really heavy, cue heavy show. And just be happy and positive. Like, everyone feeds off of everyone. It's like, you know, if one person is in a bad mood, people pick up on that energy, and it makes it hard to, you know, do your job and continue that positive atmosphere. You know, that's one thing that I constantly try to do, is just watch my demeanor, watch my energy, because everyone feeds off of that. If you see me freaking out, you're going to be like, oh my God, what's going on? This is not good. Why is she freaking out? You know, so it's just like, stay calm, stay cool, stay collected. Even if the place is on fire, don't say anything, just smile, and just, we'll figure it out, you know? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely that part of, you know, we all think about the lights and the technical, the physical things, but really it's about people. It's about relationships and managing all these different people doing their very specific things backstage. Thanks, Nicole. I'm going to swing back up to Cicely for a second, because she's been just sitting there just listening. So something that you kind of touched on earlier was that Atlanta Ballet is an Agma company, and we definitely have a lot of interaction because I'm the dancer representative of the union in the company. And so what would you, I guess, what's like a basic rundown of what it means to be an Agma company, and how does that sort of play into your work and your day-to-day?
So being an Agma company, there's a lot of rules. So there's a giant contract that is essentially a written down agreement between the organization and the dancers union, that basically is an agreement that keeps everybody happy, right? So as long as we're doing all those things, you know, everybody is getting what they need to achieve the job that they have to do. So a lot of it is based off of like timing, so rehearsals, and, you know, making sure you get your breaks, and making sure that fittings are plugged in when poor Colleen has a whole day full of fittings, making sure that the dancer has enough time to take a breather and a break before they go to that fitting, stuff like that. And then when we're in the theater, rules for quick changes, and again, breaks and things, and yeah, lots of rules that we have to follow, but for a good purpose. So a lot of my job, and Nicole's job too, is making sure that all of those things are in place. There's also a lot for casting, and making sure that we're posting that on time. Jackie always reminds us of that.
And the daily schedule.
As you should. Yep, daily schedule things. Yeah, basically dancer day-to-day logistics are a huge part of my relationship with the Agma contract and what an Agma company is.
Yeah, and these guys are super on it all the time too. Like, they make our job easy, that's for sure. Awesome. Well, I will go back to Colleen now. I saw in the chat, someone asked about costume storage. I also think that's an interesting thing, and kind of gets into the large amount of costumes that Atlanta Ballet does own, and sort of how you, I guess, organize and upkeep of that whole area. This is kind of interesting. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we do have storage. It is never as much as we want, because we could take over the whole building if we so given half an opportunity. We have everything organized mostly by show, because that's generally how we need it. So we have things set up that way. With the new Nutcracker, Dave, our technical director, actually built us some climate controlled storage, because right now we most of our storage is not climate controlled. It is weather controlled, but not climate. And so that can be hard on the costumes. And of course, we want this Nutcracker to look as beautiful the first year as it does in its 20th. So that is a huge help for us. And we also have a little bit also tucked away in the shoe cave. Abby Cat kindly shares some of her space with us, so we keep other odds and ends in there. But for the most part, we just make sure we put away things as clean as possible and just try and keep it organized. Because we don't have a full-time staff member, that's always sort of catch as catch can, but yeah, it is a large part of it, so.
Yeah, I think it's always fascinating how you make the costumes have such a life. Like, I don't think that people quite realize how many people wear these different garments compared to like a couture. I mean, they're essentially couture garments, right? They're handmade, all of these, hand beaded embroidery skills that go into something you might see on a runway is on stage being sweated in, and then has to fit so many different body types as well, like there's lines of hooks and stuff. So how, I guess there's this question about Giselle too. So in a production like that, how do you get these things ready? Like just specifically with Giselle, you can use that as an example, but
sure.
Yeah.
So Giselle is actually a rental from Pittsburgh. So it came to us on gondolas, so road boxes. So they pack them up and they ship them. Yep.
They're like with the little rail in it, the hangers, and it's got the fold down sides.
Exactly.
Although I do imagining a little Italian man in a gondola just rowing his way from Pittsburgh.
I have your costume.
It takes a while.
Anyway, sorry. Totally
so in that case, we have to, our biggest challenge is, of course, we don't necessarily know their dancers. So it takes some time for us just to go through what they have, measure things out, kind of best guess what will fit on our dancers the best. And then the other thing we are always also eagerly awaiting is casting, because especially for like the Willies, casting is a huge thing for us because we only have enough dresses for one cast. And so we need to know who can and cannot share clothes between multiple cast. And so that is also a huge challenge. But so we do fittings, but we also do mass fittings. Right before COVID, I have this memory of going into Studio A and just having all of you guys lined up so we could put the costumes on, make sure that they were about as level as we could get and that everybody was in their best fit. So
yeah, that was like one of the last days, I think, before we officially kind of went home. So now all those costumes are just sort of sitting, waiting, right?
Yes, we pack them all back up in the gondolas and they are waiting for yet more casting, and we'll bring them back out and fit you all again. So
yes, we're very excited about that, and I think definitely the audiences as well.
Yeah.
So let's see. Here we have a question. I think this is interesting. It's for Nicole, actually. Are there many female stage managers? She asks. If not, is a personality trait to getting the job as well as being successful? If not, I guess if there aren't as many females.
When I first started, there was not a lot of women stage managers. And in theater period, like I said, I've worked with Avenelli for 9 years and I've traveled literally all over the world. And one of the big things that is lacking is representation of women and minorities in the backstage area. With the exception of obviously costume, but there are men costume designers and, wardrobe people as well. But there's not a lot of women, whether it's lighting designers, stage managers, but it's getting so much better. Like when I first started, it was like maybe a handful, but now it's like slowly picking up and there's definitely more women representing in the backstage area, which is amazing. I feel like personality for any job in theater, you have to have a great personality because it's a big field, but it's a small community. Like everyone knows everyone or someone knows someone who knows someone. So if you are just nasty or have a bad attitude or personality, people are going to tell other people, and those people are not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to hire you. So I just feel like personality across the board, no matter if you're a stage manager, any kind of designer, you just have to have a great personality. And just the number one rule is just be respectful. You know, don't talk down to people, don't undermine people because you feel like they're below you. Like, no, they're everyone. This is a camaraderie. Like you're working with everyone. This is a unit. There's not one person that does something that, you know, everyone needs everyone here. Like my job is very specific to what I do, but I need Colleen, and Colleen needs Cicely, and we work together with scheduling, and, you know, so it's a unit, and we all have to get together. I mean, get along, and we have to work well together. And yeah, there's just no space or room for absolutely zero respect for anyone and for bad personalities or attitudes whatsoever. You're allowed to have bad days, but, you know, if you cross the line, make sure you apologize.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, for sure. And you know, theater, just like dance, is a very small world too. So I feel like you're a lot of people that know everyone that you know, it definitely. That is a great question. Let's see. Oh yeah, and also funny enough, we've always had a female stage manager ever since I've been here. We had, I think Amy Hand, and then Kelly Brown and Amanda, and now you. So I've always felt really lucky and supported by these awesome.
And then Angelina was here for the Nutcracker.
And Angelina, that's right. Of course. How could I forget? She's amazing. So let's see. I'm trying to look at some of these questions in the chat. Are there any good ones that I know, Abby, you've been kind of.
How much does each of you interact with the artistic director? Cicely, you like to answer that.
Or a lot. I go and bug Gennady all the time, basically. So it's a little different now because he can hide from me more when I have to bug him for information and things, because I'm working remotely. Well, right now I'm on maternity leave, but working remotely through the pandemic and stuff. So I was texting and calling him instead of being able to go and the artistic staff too, as a whole, find them and get information. Really, the majority of my communications with them are like for scheduling and casting. So that's what I mean by going and finding people and chasing people down, because every day we have to make the schedule for 2 days in advance. So we have to make sure that that's all done and posted by 4 o'clock every day. So I would say I work with Gennady a lot, and Nicole does as well. Well, everybody does. So yeah, a lot. I would say it's not necessarily that he's an untouchable like person in an office somewhere. Like he's all around our building all the time, communicating with all of us, working with all of us and getting stuff done. Yeah.
He always walks into the costume shop when we're eating.
Yeah.
Or doing something weird. We're all laying on the floor, stretching our back or something, or doing squats. And he's like, all right.
It's like, this checks out.
Yeah.
So someone wants to know about different requirements for the strength of our shanks in our point shoes. That's just sort of a preference from dancer to dancer, right? Do you see an overall trend? Do you think have things changed since you've started, or?
I mean, it really is just dancer preference. Some of you guys dance on shoes that died 20 deaths because the shanks are so soft, they're like a noodle. And some of you like your shanks to be like a piece of plywood it is unbendable. So, I mean, it's really dancer preference.
Yeah, that's what I found too. It's super, super preferential for how you like to work, but also I think we need to have different needs for what repertoire we're doing too. Sometimes with the more classical things, you need something a little stiffer. Maybe if you're rolling through more in a more contemporary piece, you can get away with a little more dead shoes.
And so, the shank, for those of you who don't know, the shank is the part that goes against the bottom of your foot.
Visual.
One here. So if this is the bottom of the shoe, like the sole of the shoe, it goes along the center of the sole and comes up to usually at least about the arch of your foot and can go all the way up to the top. But it might look something like this, or stronger, or different. They're all different.
I don't know that I've ever seen that pointy one before. That was really interesting.
This what?
That little pointy one. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I took a point you apart to see
Amazing.
how it was made.
Well, quickly before we have to end, I'd like to just go around and do a sweep again of all you guys, ask you the same question. What is something, I guess not even just specifically at your job, but something that you have done that you're super proud of right now, like recently? Cicely, you go first.
Well, I feel like mine's an easy answer right now because I just birthed the baby. So
You should be proud of that. Yeah.
I would say that that's my number one right now. I'm super proud of that, and I'm super proud to be a working mom and be able to do that and have the support of all my family and loved ones and colleagues rallying around. So yeah, that's the thing I'm most proud of right now.
Beautiful. How about you, Nicole?
I think just getting through quarantine, I've definitely had to pivot and learn a lot of new skills, whether it was through YouTube or just Googling how to, just to get a job done. So I'm proud of myself with that, just being able to, step up to the occasion. There are a lot of times when, we're especially hard on ourselves being, artists and, technical people, that, we're just this has to be perfect, this has to be correct. And so when there's like a little bump in the road or we don't execute it how we want to, it, might throw us off or make us feel a little crappy for a bit. But it's like, you know what? No one knows except for you. So just get over it.
Yeah, the type A personality. I feel that very, very hard too. How about you, Colleen? What are you proud of?
I mean, similar to Nicole, I think I'm super proud of the way the shop has gotten through this past year. We have pivoted many times, and I think we did a great job, and then we're able to get back to doing what we love doing, and with very few hiccups. So I was very proud of that.
Yeah, you guys never stopped. You went right straight
Yeah.
from Giselle fitting to mask making.
Yeah.
For frontline workers, it was incredible. And how about you, Abby?
As far as my job goes, I had never touched or like seen a point shoe up close before I started here. So I'm pretty proud about what I've learned about them, because they are complex little creatures with lots of personality to have to deal with. And
the shoes, not us, right? Well,
sure, we'll say that. No. Yes, the shoes. I mean, there's a lot that goes into these shoes, and I'm proud of myself for being able to I've had some teachers along the way, but figure that out. Personally, I pulled a tree out of the ground with my bare hands last weekend. I'm very proud of that.
I love that. I did a similar thing. I had some really intense ivy that was growing up one of my trees, and I just dumped that thing right out of the ground.
Yep.
It's a good feeling, very accomplished. Well, anyway, I just want to say thank you again for being a part of this chat and for being so open and willing to talk about your experiences. And I think conversations like this are just so important to have and just helps us appreciate one another even more. So I hope that everyone that was here and was listening, I hope that you got to learn something about these amazing women and what it is they do, the hard work that it takes to get a performance to the stage. And even in a time period where that's not maybe our number one focus, that we still all have each other's backs. And I think that's great.
And we need women backstage. Representation is key.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, because we can see that we can get the job done and do it well. Well, thank you everyone so much. And I hope you have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And
Thank you.
Jackie.
Bye.